I think you had moved from family member to family member to family member before we were even involved in your life. When I looked in his eyes, I could see the hopelessness, the hurt, and the anger. And he had every right to be hurt, and he had every right to be angry, and he had every right to be hopeless. No child deserves the pain that Quatez had already suffered in his short life. Quatez had the right to expect to have people around him who cared, supported, and kept him safe. He didn't. He built a wall to protect himself, and you remember this well. Quatez didn't want anyone to get too close to him. He didn't want to be hurt again. Because of that wall and his actions, people were afraid of him. But his actions were normal reactions, as I've always said, to abnormal circumstances. As I spent time with Quatez over the years, it was very clear that there was a depth in him, and I think, Tracy, you alluded to this, that he hid from the world. It showed in his eyes, and that funny half smile, if you look at him, and sideways look that he has when he's thinking really hard about something. He's doing it right now, if you look at him. When I looked at Quatez, I could see a strong inner spirit. He just wouldn't give up. He fought for what was right, a home, and someone to care for him. His kindness and compassion were always there. He cared about others no matter what had happened to him. He never blamed others, even when he had the absolute right to blame others. Quatez struggled through so many moves, so many changes, and his strong spirit persevered. It took a long time, and anyone else would have just given up, but not Quatez. Quatez built his own caring family, these people and many, many more. People who cared about him and helped him through the tough times. He found gifts within himself that I don't even think he knew he had. The gift of perseverance, the gift of compassion, the gift of a strong inner spirit, along with so many talents, such as his singing. This is the Quatez that I know. Quatez, I am a better person because of the person you are. Thank you for the gift of yourself. And I get to introduce Quatez, who gets to talk about himself.
Late to my own party, sorry. So I have a degree working with college students, but now I'm working with little kids, so the best birth control, so. Sorry, that's me, I'm sorry. All right, so, well, I don't know what to say, like everything, like you all know about the accolades and all this stuff. But you know, my story, my life hasn't necessarily been the best. I mean, I have 7 biological brothers and sisters who I don't have a really established relationship with growing up, and I don't know if you don't know my story, but I have a mother and a father biologically who never were married, and they had me at 2 separate times. And I started out with my biological mother, who was addicted to cocaine and would sell her body for anything just to support that habit. Then go into the foster care system, go through a couple different homes, was separated from my brother who was a year younger than I am, as well as my baby sister. And then I go into the foster care system, spend a couple of years in there, and then I finally got my father to receive custody of me. And then I'm thinking at this point that everything's gonna be okay, going back to live with my biological family, but it wasn't. I found out really quickly that my father wasn't who I thought he was, and ended up spending the next 5 years in corners, standing in corners, kneeling, holding cases of canned goods, being beaten on a daily basis. And then what happens again is that we have family members who come into the picture and who decide that they want to say something about it. But the thing about it was, once I got taken out of my father's home and placed into the foster care system, a lot of people think that it's okay and you're going to be all right. But psychologically, when you spend the first 11 and a half years of your life being abused and neglected every day, I didn't think that that was abnormal. I thought that everyone, and when you go to someone else's home, they're going through the same exact things. So to me, when people would hug me and kiss me and tell me that they loved me and different things like that, I thought that was abuse, because I had never experienced that in my life. And it made me feel so awkward at times. So to me, I would push people away and I would ruin homes just because that's what felt comfortable to me. And on the other end of it too, I wanted people to feel the same way that I felt coming up through the foster care system. And then I got to a point in my life, and Kathy was there, when they had the meeting about me going into independent living and spending time on my own before I actually, emancipated or transitioned, which I like to tell people, because when your kids turn 18, they don't emancipate from your home, they transition. So, so when I transitioned to adulthood, or when I transitioned to the independent living program, and I'm sitting there at this meeting with Kathy King, and I have my foster mom at the time, and then I have another social worker saying that I wasn't going to do anything with my life, and I was going to end up in prison, or I was going to be dead before the age of 21. It was a light that went on, because it wasn't like everything that they were saying at that table was untrue. There were a lot of things that were true. I didn't know how to cope with families. I didn't know how to be self-sufficient. There were a lot of things that I just didn't know, but it wasn't because I chose that. It was just because I didn't have time to develop that. So when when the meeting was over and I met with that specialist and we had the whole conversation about, what it is that I wanted to be and what it was I wanted to do with my life, it went off. So when I was taken out of that home, placed into the independent living program, and I was able to work with 3 people, Kathy King being really key, honestly, in that conversation, because what she said at that table was something that I live with and I remind myself of almost every day, is that, yeah, Quatez, he's done this and he's done these different things, but he's still just a child, so who are we to sit here and tell someone that their life is going to amount to death or being in prison when he's only 17 years old? At that time in my life, I really hadn't had anybody to advocate for me, and I really didn't have anyone who I felt honestly understood where it was that I was coming from. So I went to high school, living in this apartment by myself and everything, and I was reminding myself every day that I needed to do this for me, and I was putting everyone else to the side, because there were a lot of people who I thought were in my corner that really weren't. I.e., the foster parent who I thought was there to support me. So I have Kathy King, honestly, who I honestly can't sit here and talk about myself and everything that I did, because she was honestly the person who was in my corner the most through everything that I've been able to do and everything that I've been able to accomplish. And I know this is all about me and everything that I've been able to do, but without ProKids and Kathy, and honestly Tracy as well, because I will sit here and honestly say that I honestly feel like I've been supported more as an adult than I was when I was in care. That says a lot. I have Kathy, and Tracy that both went to my undergrad graduation. I made sure that I set aside 2 tickets for them. Unfortunately, I couldn't set aside a ticket for Tracy at this last one, but she was there in spirit. But they're just 2 people who've been so awesome and so influential, and sometimes it's hard to honestly fathom it, because I'm a Christian, and I always ask myself, I always ask God, why is it that it was me? Because God favors a lot of different people. And I look at myself, and I look at my circumstances, and I look at my brothers and sisters, who many of them have been placed with the same opportunities, but it's yet myself who stands here with 2 degrees and a world of opportunities in front of me. And it's not that they don't, but they don't have the ones that I have right now. They don't have the supporting cast that I have. In my life, everything and everyone has fallen into place exactly when I needed them. And it's the same thing with Ron McSwain, who I honestly, my first year after I graduated, or my first year after being in the undergrad, and I was literally homeless for the first 3 weeks because I didn't have a family. I didn't have a mother and a father. I didn't have a foster home or anything like that. It was just me, and I had to couch surf with a couple of my friends, and then I ended up getting a job working 55 hours a week. And then Ron McSwain comes into my life and asks to come hear me give a speech somewhere else, and then all of a sudden, we're 6 years down the line, and I love this man like he's my father. So I sit here before all of you. Honestly, I'm humbled and I'm grateful and I'm thankful, but I'm also just one person in a world of foster care children who also have possibilities and who also have opportunities to do the same thing. So when you look at another foster child and when you hear different stories, don't think of, Quatez. Think of that person for that person, because that's a mistake that a lot of people think of. They always say, okay, well, Quatez was able to do it, so why isn't this person able to do it? All of us have different stories, and all of us have gone through something different. So their healing process is going to be different than mine is, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to make it. So I thank you all for coming out tonight. I promise to try to make my way around. I know I'm late. But if there's an opportunity that anyone wants to get to know me or keep in contact after this, I promise I'm like an open book. So thank you all very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
This is
Thank you.
all people prepare so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Quatez.
Appreciate
You
it.
mean so much to the rest of
So,
us.
so Quatez, have you noticed the green and white? So Amanda,
Oh, yeah.
Amanda figured out that your undergrad, your grad school, and the university you're going to all have green and white as their
Every single school you've gone to, the colors are green and white.
Green and white. I will add one thing. All right, so when I was actually interviewed with by Colorado State, they asked me what I was most proud of in my life, and I typically hate questions like that because I always start to get emotional and everything and think about my own life. But I said, you know, I'm sitting here today and I'm on the cusp of a master's degree in less than a month. I have my bachelor's degree, and I honestly don't have any real worries as of yet. And I've been able to make it through the foster care system. So I'm not proud of where I am physically today. I'm proud of the way in which I did it, because I did it the right way. I don't have to look over my shoulders. I don't have to worry about anyone coming and saying, you know, how did you do this or how did you do that, or questioning it. I know for myself that I did it the right way. So for those of you who are mentors and working with these youth out here today, that was the one thing that I would always ask you to just, you know, push for them, is to do it the right way.